So in this video, we're going to be talking about how do you change the equation of a quadratic function into multiple forms. So if you remember in the last class, we learned about three different forms. We learned about vertex form, intercept, standard, and standard form. We learned how to make them make an equation that best represents given what we have. So now let's suppose that we do have like the vertex. So in this case, we have the vertex. And we were able to create a vertex form equation. So here my vertex is positive 3, negative 1. So that would be my vertex is 3, negative 1. Okay, so now how can we make this into then standard form and intercept form? So just remember that standard form is kind of like the middle ground between vertex and intercept form. So you have to go through standard and then to intercept form. So basically the way you're going to get to standard form is by foiling this out and putting together common terms. So remember that x minus 3 squared is just x minus 3 times x minus 3. And then x minus 3 times x minus 3 is going to be x squared. My outer is going to be negative 3x, and so is my inner. So if I put that together, you get negative 6x. And then my last is negative 3 times negative 3, which is positive 9. So a quick formula for this, for your perfect squares, right, is going to be if you square the first, multiply these two, and then multiply by 2, that gives you the middle, and then square the last. And so then now we have that negative 1. So we have f of x is equal to this. And then the last thing that we need to do to make this into standard form is put together a y-intercept, which is 9 minus 1. And so my standard form equation is going to be x squared minus 6x plus 8. So that is the first one. So that's my standard form. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to make this into the intercept form. So if you remember, intercept form is just the factored form, and it tells us there are 2 zeros. In order to do that, we need to take our standard form equation and make it and factor it. So notice that not every trinomial is factorable. So the intercept form is sometimes not, you cannot do it. Basically, it doesn't have any intercepts. So it's, or it's kind of hard to show the intercepts. So intercept form is sometimes not something that you can like automatically do just by factoring, but this is what if we need to make into intercept form, we're going to factor. So for this case, we're going to do x times x gives us x squared, and then 4 times 2 gives us 8. And then if we subtract, right, our inner is going to be 4x and our outer is going to be 2x. If we subtract both of these, you're going to get a negative 6x. So I'm going to get x minus 4 and x minus 2. So my intercept form equation here is going to be x minus 4 and x minus 2. So notice that from changing it into different forms, I can tell a lot about this equation. First of all, I knew that the vertex was 3, negative 1 from the original equation. I also knew that my a value was 1. Here, I knew that my y-intercept was 8. And then here, I can tell that my zeros are 4 and 2. So just a lot to say from this one equation. I was able to get a lot of information about this graph. I can probably sketch it at this point. I can make the vertex, I can make the y-intercept, and I can get the zeros and probably connect the dots and be able to give a picture of what this looks like. Okay, so in this next example, we're going to go backwards. So we're going to start with the intercept form equation. So again, I have my zeros here, which are 1 and 3, and I also have my a value. And we're going to make it into standard form by foiling. So first, we're going to distribute this 2 out, and we're going to have that f of x is equal to 2x minus 2. Parentheses x minus 3, and then now we can go ahead and FOIL this. So we have 2x times x, which is going to be 2x squared, 2x times negative 3, which is negative 6x, negative 2 times x, which is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 3, which is positive 6. I can go ahead and combine these things, and I have that my f of x is going to equal to 2x squared minus 8x plus 6. Okay, so this is my standard form equation. And again, from standard form, you can go ahead and figure out that the y-intercept is 2. Good. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to figure out what the vertex form equation is. So there's actually two ways. One way is we can complete the square, and the other way is you can figure out what the vertex is by using the formula and then just writing the equation that way. So I would just do both, maybe, if you have time, just to kind of like double check your answer. So we're going to do completing the square first. Okay, so if I'm trying to complete the square here, the first thing that I need to do is I need to get rid of my a value, right? Because your a value needs to be 1. Now here I can't just divide by 2 because this is an equation. It's not set equal to something, and it's not set equal to 0. You can just divide by 2. So we're just going to pull it out and leave it there. Again, that's just my a value. And then take it out of everyone, so you get a 4x and a plus 3. Then what we're going to do is we're going to try to complete the square here. So we have x squared minus 4x. So in order to complete the square, half of 4 is negative 2. If you square it, that's 4. So I need a positive 4 here. So I'm going to plus 4 and then minus 4 so that it doesn't change it, and keep that 3 there. Okay, so then I'm going to combine these two, because remember that's just what's left over. And so you have negative 4 plus 3, which is minus 1, which is what was missing, right, in order to complete the square. Okay, remember that this is my perfect square, and this is what you want to make into that squared number. So we're going to kick out this negative 1, but when we kick it out, we have to make sure we multiply by 2. And so you have x squared minus 4x plus 4. Then again, we're going to take out, I forgot the plus sign, so let me make sure I write that in there. So plus 4. And when we kick, now, when we kick out the negative 1 out of the parentheses, we're going to make sure we multiply it by this 2 here. We're going to have negative 2. So now, this right here is a perfect square, which I can rewrite as 2 parentheses x minus 2 squared minus 2. And there we go. We have our vertex form. So our vertex here would be 2, negative 2. Now, what you could do instead here is, this is one way. This is by completing the square. The other way to get the same answer is you could have used your formula to find the x value of the vertex by doing x is equal to negative b, which would have been positive 8 divided by 2a, so 2 times 2, which is 4, all over. So I'm going to actually write the 2 times 2 that way. So negative 8, positive 8 times 2 times 2, which is 8 divided by 4, which is 2. So that's the axis of symmetry, or the x value of the vertex. If you plug that back in here, you can get the y value. And so you're going to get 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 6. So here we have 4 times 2, which is 8. And then negative 8 times 2, which is negative 16 plus 6. So 8 minus negative 16 is negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. So there we go. So that's my vertex, which lines up to here. And so then now I can write my equation. Remember that the a value of this, which is the a value of this, which is the a value here, is all the same number. So my a value is going to be 2, and then my vertex is going to be x minus 2 squared minus 2. So this is the same idea. So one way was completing the square, the other way was getting the vertex, plugging it in, and putting it into my formula that way. So either way would get you the same answer. So I hope that you found this video useful in how to get all the forms. Again, I think it's really nice if you can get all 3 forms of the equation, because that way you can go ahead and graph right away without even making a table. because right here this told you your y-intercept, this told you your zeros, and then this right here told you vertex, which is basically all you need to know. All right, so I'm glad that you guys were able to watch this video, and I hope you found this helpful and took good notes. Definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions.